Welcome to Spectrum TV News at 12. I am Uyai and here can come to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the major stories. Sanction for expatriate quota abuse. Plus, U.S. to open new migrant processing centers in Colombia and Guatemala. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Thanks for joining us. First in the news this afternoon is Nigeria's leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, who has said that over 60,000 soldiers were recruited. Buhari said this at the Nigerian Army Trooping and Presentation of Colors Parade 2023 at Eagle Square in Abuja. According to him, the country's interventions and budgetary allocation to the Army between 2020 and 2022 alone has been able to procure hundreds of mine-resistant procured from 2017 to 2022. The president further noted that the army had restructured the conduct of its operations to meet current realities, saying the quantum of platforms induced into the army since 2015 had enabled troops to take the battle to the terrorists and criminals, particularly in the northeast. He added that his administration has demonstrated commitment to increase the strength of the armed forces in his
power. As a result of the procurement of equipment and mission-specific training, the Army was empowered to rejig its operations. Accordingly, the Army has restructured the conduct of its operations to meet current realities. To take the battle to the terrorists and criminals, particularly in the northeast, resulting in the recapture and enhance their zeal to discharge their constitutional mandate. Furthermore, in line with my resolve to cater for the families of deceased personnel, over 50,000 children and wards of personnel who died in active service are on the Nigerian Army Scholarship from 2015.
Foreign companies, saying stiffer punishment would be meted out to violators. The chairman, Task Force on Expatriate Quota Administration in River State, Ilori, said the idea of the policy was to ensure that Nigerians were not shortchanged, pointing out that the country must benefit from the activities of the expatriates present in the country. He stressed that for every expatriate that comes into the country, 2 Nigerians must be employed to understudy them. Reports in areas that may not be readily available in the country for a given period. Is from Egypt today. It said the Nigerian Air Force, NAV, Air Peace and other airlines have received clearance to fly to Egypt. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Janet Olisa noted that the NAV C-130H is scheduled to commence the airlifting of the evacuees. The government also added that arrangements are being concluded to airlift all Nigerians that have already escaped on their own to safety in our Director and Chief Executive of Nigerian Exports Promotion Council NEPC, Exra Yakusak, says the council has set a target to generate over $5 billion from non-oil export in 2023. The NEPC board also disclosed that the country's non-oil products export amounted to $1.34 billion in the first quarter of the year of 2022. According to him, the sector recorded $4.82 billion in non-oil export earnings last year, which represented an increase of 39.91% compared to 2021, and the highest value of exports recorded since worth of promissory notes to 199 exporting companies under the Export Expansion Grant EEG scheme had commenced. Part of efforts to determine the extent of damage from the flooding of 2022 and to provide relief for affected persons and states, the Jigawa State Governor Mohammed Abubakar disclosed this to newsmen shortly after the Vja. Abubakar, who chairs the ad hoc committee on flooding, said 16 states had submitted reports showing the extent of damage occasioned by nationwide flooding during Gombe, Taraba, Yobe, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Kebbi, and Sokoto states. On the extent of damage in the 16 states, Abubakar said 104,000 households have been affected, 172,000 people displaced, 201 died, and 100 to lead and coordinate with the Ministries of Environment and Transportation and state governments to develop a comprehensive plan of action for preventing flood disaster nationwide in 90 days. This was part of resolutions at the end of the National Administrative Council meeting of the NLC. The union, in a statement jointly signed by the NLC President Joe Ajero and its Secretary General Emmanuel Ubuaja, also warned state to take immediate disciplinary action against all officers who are currently working with some state governors to flagrantly defy the orders of the National Administrative Council and the Central Working Committee as it concerns the outcome of the state delegates' conference. The Inspector General of Police has announced plans by the Commission to set up a compliant response unit parallel to the existing Police Society organization, Clean Foundation, and the national leadership of the Nigeria Union of Journalists in Abuja. According to a statement by the spokesperson for the PSC, Ikechukwu Ani, RSA said, a police force that does not connect with the public or respect human rights will find it difficult to succeed, noting that the Commission would do everything possible to improve the services to sit for the 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination in 11 centers across the nation. The chairman, JAM Equal Opportunity Group, JEOG, Peter Okebukola, who made this known while providing the category of Nigerians, saying the goal of the Oloyede-led JAM was to ensure that no eligible Nigerian is prevented from taking the UTME regardless of disability. He disclosed that from 2017, JEOG the choice in higher education institutions in Nigeria, mainly universities, adding that the initiative had been cited in the last 4 years in several countries as a good model for Africa. According to reports, the special examination conducted by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board for visually impaired candidates were held between April 20 We move now to Africa, where rival factions of Sudan's military have agreed to renew a 3-day ceasefire shortly before it was due to expire. The extension for another 72 hours follows intensive diplomatic efforts by neighboring countries as well as the US, UK, and allowed thousands of people to attempt to flee to safety. While dozens of countries have tried to evacuate their citizens, almost 2 weeks of fighting between the army and a rival paramilitary group have reportedly left hundreds dead. Meanwhile, UK says Giles Liver, its ambassador to Sudan, has been relocated to neighboring Ethiopia after it temporarily closed its embassy in the conflict-riven East African country. The British Foreign Office said the UK authorities said so far 6 flights had evacuated 536 British nationals from Sudan, but there has been criticism of the slowness of the UK government's evacuation compared with other Western countries. Processing centers in Colombia and Guatemala as part of efforts to reduce undocumented immigration. Reports say the processing centers will allow successful applicants to enter the U.S. legally and improve. 6,000 people are expected to be processed a month, but it will be scaled up, noting that Spain and Canada have also agreed to take a number of those applying. The U.S. also announced plans to double or triple the number of
economic opportunity continue to push people from their homes. Problems that have been exacerbated by the pandemic, crises of governance, extreme weather events caused by the changing climate. Migration is the definition of a challenge that no country.
On the foreign scene, Russia has reportedly launched a wave of airstrikes against cities across Ukraine, including Kyiv, leaving at least 12 people dead. Ukraine officials said 10 people, including a child, were killed in an attack that hit a block of flats in the central city of Uman, and a woman with apartment block was among 10 residential buildings that were damaged. Zelensky called for further international action to be taken against Russia. Still to come in the news. Tottenham draws Manchester United. Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the news. On our business news, the President Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Adeshina Adedayo, has said the conference scheduled to take place in Abuja with the theme Nigeria of the Future, Achieving Sustainable Development Through Taxation. Adedayo said for Nigeria to effectively develop economically, it must get the tax and fiscal policies right. As a nation, he said the country was confronted by several economic depreciating value of the naira, rising debt burden, and increasing government spending, among others. Still in business, the Nigerian Exchange Limited has continued to 6% to 52,235 naira. Similarly, the market's capitalization appreciated by 0.26% to 28.442 trillion naira. Market activities showed trade turnover moderated relative to the previous session, as the volume and value of transactions went down by 63.96% and 9.52%. It has urged for partnership with the media and all stakeholders to deepen awareness on the dangers posed by tuberculosis (TB) in the state. The call was made by the Director, Department of Public Health, Ministry of Health, in collaboration with its technical partners, KNCV and Breakthrough Action Nigeria, with support from the USAID. Dr. Tesola, in his welcome address, said the prevalence of TB was alarming and taking a high dimension in the state. He noted that there was an urgent need to mobilize committed efforts of all stakeholders to was treatable, but for ignorance and lack of awareness, many suffer and die from the disease. Dr. Tesala said the campaign against TB must be intensified if positive results must be achieved. He expressed the state government's displeasure over the poor attitude of the people in utilizing public health facilities in the state. According to him, most people shy away from undergoing test and treatment regimen that would aid in early detection and check the spread of the disease. In the meantime, the Anambra state government says malaria-related under 5 death rate has reduced from 77.8% to 14.3% between February 2022 2023. This disclosure was made by the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Afam, as well as clear bushes to prevent malaria. He also advised residents to visit hospitals for proper diagnosis and treatment of malaria, noting that the state government had subsidized the cost of treatment, especially for children. In sports, Song hit in Ryan's Mason's first game back as interim boss. United looked to be coasting to a 4th straight Premier League win after goals by Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford put them in a commanding position at halftime. Pedro Porro launched the fight back before Bruno Fernandes hit the bar for United when he should have scored. Son equalized from close range after good work by Harry Kane to leave home fans who had earlier called for chairman Daniel Levy to go Castle by 2 points after the Magpies won 4-1 at Everton. Still in sports, Newcastle and Real Madrid step closer to Champions League football next season and pushed Everton ever closer to the championship with a 4-1 win at Goodison Park yesterday. Eddie Howe's men were far from their best, but still far too good for the Toffees as Callum Wilson scored twice. Joe Linton was also on target as Newcastle opened up an 8-point cushion adrift of safety and with a huge task ahead to extend their 69-year stay in the English top flight. On an entertainer-old passed on. In a tribute on his verified Facebook page, the actor said his late son made his mark despite that he lived for 16 years. Edochie, however, said he could not question God but prayed him to rest the soul of his late son. Still on entertainment, the return of the King in 2021. The filmmaker who teased her forthcoming projects online named them to be King of Boys 3, To Kill a Monkey, and Welcome to the Forest. This is the first mention of the latter, but And that's all we have for you at this time. Do well to follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng.